Aaron, this is Florida. Nothing strange here.
The house was beautiful. It was 4,000 square feet. It had a pool, a garage apartment. It was a great house. The only problem was upstairs. Some of the rooms were too small and just the functionality did not work for some families. I could understand why they'd want to renovate it.
When did you first meet Shanti and David?
Dave just called me on the phone and asked if I'd come by and take a look at the project. He said that they had done some work. I wasn't at all prepared for what I saw when I got there. They had fully disassembled this house to a degree that I'd never seen before. It was rather astonishing. It was largely wide open, like you're inside of a giant shoebox.
This house became more than just a project to David Tronis. It was his life. He obsessed on it. This house is the center point to the story and ultimately led to Shanti's demise. This case all started with a call to 911, placed at approximately 3:51 p.m. on April 24th, 2018 by Dave Tronis.
Hello?
And David says that he came home and found Shanti floating in the bathtub.
Why is she not breathing?
Did that story make sense?
Absolutely not. Shanti was extensively beaten.
It makes me emotional. I feel bad for her family and for her son. It's upsetting that she won't get that life with him.
Clearly, Dave Tronis, from the very beginning, is a suspect.
Absolutely. Dave was asked to go to the station and voluntarily remain there for hours.
Just have a seat there. It'll be a little bit.
He did not request counsel. He consented to swabs, to clippings, to a search of his person.
Dave went into that interview with an agenda.
I'd never been more in love or so happy.
And he just started getting confronted and confronted and confronted.
I told you she was murdered. Murdered. Someone took her life from her, and there's nothing. You can't even fake it. That's how much you could give it.
And it became a war of wills in that room.
I don't have any explanation for her, the severity of her injuries.
And didn't David win that war of wills? He was not broken.
Well, Dave didn't confess.
Are we boring you?
It seems pretty clear, these two detectives, they went into this room, decided that David was a murderer, and then went the extra mile to try to put a file together to prove such.
Did you guys get into an argument? Was she about the house?
No.
Is it possible that without this house, Shanti might still be alive?
I think that's completely true.
Delaney Park is a well-established neighborhood. It's been around for over 100 years.
Tara Stevens knows Delaney Park inside and out. She's a realtor who buys and sells homes there.
It's a great place to live, to raise a family, a lot of outside activity, great school system. It's a great neighborhood.
So Delaney Park is a mile or so from downtown Orlando.
Ryan Vecchio, a former prosecutor with the Orlando State Attorney's Office, got to know the area well when he led the investigation into the death of Shanti Cooper in April 2018. Did Shanti ever indicate to any friends or family that she was afraid of anyone?
No.
So you guys knew each other approximately 5 years this month.
Vecchio and investigators dug in to learn all they could about Shanti and her husband, David Trones. The couple had been married for more than a year.
Everybody we spoke to about Dave and Dave's background said that he was highly intelligent. It's what made him successful when he worked in business.
How would you describe Shanti?
Shanti Cooper was a hard-working, dedicated mom who cared deeply, deeply about her son. Her son was her world.
Shanti's son, Jackson, was then 8 years old. She shared custody with his father, Jim Cooper, whom Shanti had divorced in 2013. She launched a lucrative financial software business and worked out of her home office. How did she meet Dave Trones?
Dave was outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota at the time. They met over the internet and started exchanging messages and profiles, and that turned into emails.
Investigators later found this document on Shanti's computer that shows just how smitten she was. Dave, I will have to say, I think this will be a delicious detour. Amazing, magnificent, life-changing detour. I've had a pep in my step since we started this little email affair. In Minnesota, Dave had just ended a long marriage, but within months of meeting Shanti online, he moved to Orlando. Dave fell in love with Delaney Park and the house at 218 East Copeland Drive, a house that came complete with its own gargoyles.
We sold it to him for $607,500, which was a really, really good deal.
How did he pay for it?
Cash.
Dave put the house in trust for himself and his mother, and soon introduced Shanti to Tara.
They seemed very happy. She was a beautiful, very nice person. I enjoyed meeting her.
Tara did not feel quite the same about Dave.
Dave's personality changed a little bit after the contract was signed. I just saw a very different side of him. He was like a guy or a child who wants to get their way, and they don't stop until they do.
You were glad when the deal was over?
Absolutely. I was very glad.
I didn't get a good feeling from him.
Cindy and Dan Dow are Shanti's relatives by marriage. They didn't like Dave at first, but it wasn't long before Cindy had a change of heart.
I love her, so I grew to love him. We absolutely adored him. The first time we had lunch, he walked in and he said, "How lucky am I? I get to have lunch with two of the most beautiful women that I know." I mean, that's charming.
In 2015, Dave and Shanti moved into their new home and attempted to remodel it with Shanti footing the bill. What did Dave do all day?
It's a great question. If you ask Dave, he says that he worked on the house and worked on the renovations and took care of the property and cleaned the pool.
Contractors came and went. Demolition went on and on, but the renovation was an expensive failure. By 2018, the main part of the house was unlivable. Shanti was reduced to working and sleeping above the garage in a small apartment. Where did Dave sleep?
I think he slept downstairs with the dogs. Maybe not all the time, but I'm pretty sure he was down there.
Desperate to resolve the housing situation, Dave turned to Keith Ory, a local house renovator who also appeared on a reality TV show called Zombie House Flipping.
Neighborhoods are under attack from zombie houses.
What is zombie house flipping?
Zombie House Flipping is a house flipping TV show where we take houses that are the worst of the worst.
Is anything broken? I think we have a termite problem.
And what we do is bring them back to life. I looked at the house, I realized that the structure was suspect, and politely stepped outside.
An engineer discovered the only thing holding up the house was 2 inches of stucco.
It was rather astonishing. They took away all the interior dividing walls, and basically what was left was a 2-story shell.
Weren't you tempted to just run for the hills?
Yeah, but at the same time, you rarely come across a challenge that's that bold.
Keith was up for the challenge and began shoring up the interior. And then he got the go-ahead to use the house in the next season of Zombie House Flipping.
This is Zombie House Flipping.
It was mid-April 2018, and filming was set to begin in early May. But there was a problem.
Getting Dave and Shanti together to talk in person was proving to be really difficult.
Keith went to the house to meet with the couple one last time to be sure they were on board.
And they both said, yes, we understand. And then she took off immediately and left. I got a sense that she was pissed off at him.
Vecchio said Shanti had been trying for years to get her name on the trust that owned the house, but Dave never followed through.
And it seemed like things just sort of culminated to a boiling point.
It was only days before Shanti's murder. She desperately wanted stability in her life, but was living in a house that was anything but. Her name was not on the deed, and she had already spent a lot of money on what was essentially Dave's house.
Shanti was the bankroll, the sole bankroll to almost $250,000 renovation.
What did she get for her $250,000?
Well, a lot of headaches and heartaches.
Shortly after Shanti was pronounced dead, Dave Tronas went to Orlando Police Headquarters.
I'll get her as soon as I can.
Where he remained without a lawyer for 14 hours.
We got to figure this out together, okay?
Of course.
He didn't attempt to conceal anything.
Richard Zaleski is Dave's attorney.
He gave the law enforcement access to everything that they needed, everything that they wanted, and he laid himself out there for examination by all.
We want to say how sorry we are for your loss.
At the start, Detectives Teresa Sprague and Barb Sharp seemed sympathetic.
Take a minute, okay? I know this is super tough.
They're very good at building rapport and have a tremendous amount of experience. If you have a suspect who's willing to talk, you just hit play and sit back and let them go on and on and on. And that's what Dave does.
Dave sticks with his story. He took the dogs to a park in the afternoon, and after he returned, he found Shanti, still wearing her pajamas, floating in the tub.
So I could hear the water is running. I see her laying. One of her legs is kind of sticking up and out a little bit. And it's just extremely awful.
Can you tell me what your address is?
He tells the detectives that he tried to perform CPR but couldn't get Shanti to breathe. She was dead when first responders arrived.
Dave has a lot to say, and a lot to say to try to convince the detectives that he wasn't involved in his wife's death.
I think something went wrong. Either she slipped or she fell or she blacked out.
Why did he agree to sit down and talk to these detectives without an attorney?
Because he had nothing to hide, and he didn't think that it would hurt him.
But the veteran detectives began to pick at his story and question how Shanti's bloody cheek and bruised eye came from a slip in the tub.
I don't have any explanation. This is what I found.
Somebody who slips and falls doesn't receive the amount of blunt force trauma to focused areas in the head.
Detectives also had spotted blood on Shanti's bed and suspected that's where she had been killed. But Dave says the blood likely was from Shanti's period.
It did get on the bedspread, and it did get almost through the bed.
There was a lot of other evidence that would be inconsistent with this being blood associated with a menstrual cycle.
Detectives also suspected, and Shanti's autopsy later confirmed, that she was strangled. But Zaleski says, as frustrating as it may have been to authorities, Dave can't explain Shanti's injuries, not because he's lying, but because he simply doesn't know.
He took his best guess based upon what he come to find. He doesn't know what happened, is the point.
The detectives press on for hours, taking turns and peppering Dave with tougher and tougher questions.
Did you two argue?
No, absolutely not.
Did you fight?
Absolutely not.
Did you harm Shanti in any way?
Absolutely not.
Sharp and Sprague also question his timeline. Dave says that he called 911 about 5 minutes after he found Shanti.
You've got to help us understand.
But detectives insist that doesn't match what they found at the house.
There's no splashing of water anywhere in the bathroom. The inside of the tub is dry, completely dry, and she's damp. She's not even wet. So you've got to help us. Can you do that?
I've told you everything.
They're drawing conclusions based upon observations, and they're moving forward based upon these assumptions.
They try to zero in on a possible motive.
Did she catch you with another woman? Did she have a boyfriend? Was she about the house?
No.
But given the sorry state of the house, detectives begin to wonder if that had something to do with Shanti's murder.
I can't imagine how stressful it must have been. You know, not living in the home you want to live in, and it's taken 2+ years, 3 years.
I'm sick to death about what happened, but nothing happened today because of there was no animosity between us whatsoever.
And he says Shanti wasn't upset that her name wasn't on the trust that owned the house.
So we had kind of talked about it and debated it, and we finally just said it doesn't really matter. Let's just move forward.
Teresa and Barb are tenacious. They don't stop.
They're well-versed in interrogation techniques. You know, we saw the good cop, bad cop. We saw manipulation.
Barb Sharp even moves her hand to Dave's knee and adopts a more subtle tone.
It will be okay. We can't help you until you help us.
Before Teresa Sprague begins another attack.
She treats you like a landscaper, like the pool boy. Probably because she's bringing in the money.
As the hours tick by,
what do you want your mom to think about you?
They try anything they can to get him to confess.
Are you religious? You want to pray?
This almost became a game of psychological warfare in that interview room.
Dave began the interview by saying how happy he had been with Shanti. But almost 8 hours into the interrogation, the detectives aren't buying it.
You claim to love that woman? I would be under the table in a ball if I was in love with that woman and she was dead. I would be inconsolable.
Do you think that he was penalized because he didn't act the way detectives wanted him to act?
Oh, time and time again.
You know, you fake cried for about 7 or 8 hours today. Not one tear came out of your eyes, not one.
There's a lot of conclusions being drawn off of what they consider to be an odd affect of Mr. Tron's. And I think that that's a dangerous thing to do because we all react to stress differently. We all grieve differently.
Dave even agrees to take a polygraph, but by then it was the middle of the night. And investigators couldn't find anyone to administer it. They had to let him go at the end of the interview. How did they feel about that?
You always want to make the arrest right up front. You do.
With Dave Tronis free, police would have to keep digging for clues. But even they were surprised by what they found. Is it fair to say that Dave Tronis was living a double life?
At least 2 lives.
She didn't slip and fall. It's not a possibility.
Even though detectives were outright accusing Dave Tronas of murdering Shanti,
You strangled her.
some of her relatives, like Cindy Dow, believed him.
Are you kidding? I bet my last dollar that it wasn't him. I thought he was innocent.
You honestly did, Cindy. Why?
I think it was just the growth of our relationship and how she adored him, absolutely adored him, and it looked very mutual to everyone.
Did she ever express any concern or fear of Dave?
Never.
Never.
After being questioned by detectives, Dave headed straight to his home in Delaney Park, and that's where Cindy found him.
I stood him up and turned him around and looked at his arms, and there was not a scratch on him. There was nothing.
Cindy, did you ever ask him point blank, did you have something to do with the death of Shanti?
I did.
What did he say?
No. I would not kill the love of my life.
Defense attorney Richard Zaleski says the problem with this case is that detectives and prosecutors were convinced from the start that Dave Tronas was Shanti's killer. Zaleski says the bias of the investigators is clear from the police report.
They've already suggested that they have it figured out, like bull in a china shop trying to just make this work at all costs because they've done nothing to develop other suspects.
But Vecchio denies that. He says detectives checked out every possible suspect and got lucky when an important lead fell into their laps.
A worker from Club Orlando called and shared that they knew of Dave Tronas because he was a patron at the club.
What is Club Orlando?
Club Orlando is a same-sex bathhouse.
Did Dave have a membership at Club Orlando?
Several memberships. Every 6 months, Dave renewed his membership.
Detectives headed to the club to investigate and found a longtime club employee who, in this police-recorded interview, says he witnessed Dave having sex at the club.
I was just walking through and I saw David, he was giving oral sex to this guy.
From what everybody who knew Shanti has said, she would absolutely have not tolerated it, put up with it, endorse it. It just wouldn't have happened.
There's a significant possibility that Shanti knew all about it.
And why do you believe that? Because none of her family members seem to know anything about it, and her family members seem to indicate that if Shanti did know, she'd be upset.
And I appreciate that, but what you tell your mom and dad about your sex life and what you do behind closed doors, you know, people are people, adults are adults, and life is messy.
But Vecchio wonders if Shanti ultimately did discover Dave's duplicity on the night she was murdered. Had that revelation made Shanti threaten to turn off the money spigot once and for all? But she would be killed because of a house?
Well, what would somebody do when they were about to lose the most important thing in their life? Because in April of 2018, the most important thing in Dave's life was that house.
Dave told Cindy and others that he believed Shanti may have been murdered by a burglar, and the defense claimed that $5,000 in cash was missing from the house. Also missing, Shanti's diamond engagement ring, valued at approximately $15,000.
That was highly, highly suspicious. The detectives wanted to get to the bottom of it.
Why couldn't it have been exactly as Dave said, that he leaves and someone breaks into the house, beats her, leaves her there, and Dave comes home? Why doesn't that fit?
Well, the lack of forced entry. This scene did not have any sort of evidence of a struggle. There's thousands of dollars of valuables that are left in plain sight.
A private investigator hired by defense lawyers canvassed neighbors, asking them about a particular homeless man who reportedly had been seen around Delaney Park. It was said he resembled the actor Woody Harrelson. What about the transient that everyone describes who looks a lot like Woody Harrelson?
I mean, when you got nothing better, you throw everything against the wall and see if something sticks.
This home is at 218 East Copeland Drive.
Detective Teresa Sprague tracked Woody down and recorded this interview.
And you see there's a large blue dumpster in the driveway. Have you ever been there?
No.
Nothing placed Woody inside Dave and Shanti's home, but Vecchio says his interview shows police chased down every lead, including checking out her ex-husband. Shanti had had a bad divorce. This was not an easy end of the marriage. Did you look at Jim Cooper?
Yes, Mr. Cooper was interviewed, and Jim Cooper was eliminated as a suspect very early on. He had an alibi.
On August 29, 2018, 4 months after Shanti's murder, Dave Tronis was arrested on a charge of first-degree murder and held without bail. And how did the two of you react when you heard that?
I wasn't believing it whatsoever. I thought they were just trying to solve a murder easily.
I always had the suspicion.
Dave's arrest gave prosecutors another piece of the puzzle: Shanti's missing engagement ring.
The ring is probably one of the most powerful and damning pieces of evidence in this case.
As long as that expensive ring was missing, Dave Tronis could argue that a burglar had murdered Shanti. But the day he was arrested, police found it among his possessions.
We searched the room at his mother's house where he was living, and lo and behold, we found the rings in his suitcase in his bedroom.
Still, Dave's arrest was not the end of the investigation. It led to a cascading series of new revelations that surprised even a veteran prosecutor like Ryan Vecchio.
This was a case that had so many twists and turns, I would no longer make assumptions of anything. You don't learn this stuff in law school.
After the arrest of Dave Tronis, investigators received a tip that took them completely by surprise. It led them to Minnesota and back in time to when a much younger Dave was married to a woman named Carol. Former close friends of Carol told detectives that they believed Dave may have been poisoning her.
As soon as Carol got married to Dave, she started suffering a bunch of unknown health issues.
That made prosecutor Ryan Vecchio wonder if Shanti could have been poisoned.
In Shanti's case, she had appendicitis and had to have an appendectomy.
Shanti had had that emergency appendectomy 8 weeks before her death. Appendicitis and poisoning have similar symptoms, and Dave told detectives that Shanti had digestion problems right up to the day she died.
She hasn't found, since the appendectomy, a diet that she can eat regularly and feel good.
Vecchio needed more information, so he and Detective Teresa Sprague went to Minnesota in November of 2018 to meet Carol face-to-face and recorded this interview.
I have issues with chronic pain and immune system issues that are not necessarily definitive.
Carol told Vecchio she also struggled with gut issues and that Dave cooked most of their meals.
Has it ever come into your frame of thought that your marriage to David Tronis or him cooking or making you drinks was making you sick?
No.
Have you ever thought that any of your issues related to your health problems was him poisoning you?
No.
Carol said her health issues continued even after her divorce from Dave. Yet Vecchio says he remains suspicious.
It very well could have been a scenario to where Dave was providing both of them with items that caused them to be ill. We just could never have real concrete proof of it.
Vecchio wondered if there was another reason Carol seemed to be protecting her former husband, and whether it had anything to do with Dave's finances.
We saw 1,000 pages of bank records belonging to Dave Tronis. One thing that we noticed was that Dave and Carol still had a joint bank account together.
That account at times contained hundreds of thousands of dollars, but Carol said she simply had forgotten to take her name off that account.
People who are divorcing each other don't leave assets on the table, and they sure as heck don't leave them together.
It's unclear where that money came from. Vecchio believes that Carol, who was not charged with any crime, could be helping Dave manage his money while he's in jail.
I think that Carol is involved in David's finances and has some level of control.
The surprises in the case kept coming. Soon after Shanti's death, detectives had placed a surveillance camera pointed toward the outside of Dave's house.
Detective Sprague was interested to see who was coming and going out of the house. And that camera ended up actually turning into a pretty valuable piece of evidence.
That camera captured images of private investigators hired by Dave's original law firm coming and going. Detectives believe that when one of those lawyers, Robert Mandel, realized that the PIs were on camera, he placed a call to Vecchio.
I never ever expected that he was going to tell me that he in fact had an item of physical evidence that he had been holding on to for 11 months. Never would have expected it in 1,000 years.
And what was that evidence?
They were a set of purported bloody sheets. And it literally took my breath away.
That defense attorney, Robert Mandel, told Vecchio that the defense team had acquired the bloody sheets from the garage apartment where Shanti was found dead, but had never turned them over to the prosecution. But Ryan, as shocking as that is, that wasn't the only evidence that later turned up, was it?
No. I ended that call with the defense attorney and said, listen, if you have anything else, now is the time to tell me. And about 10, 12 hours later, the next morning, I got another call from him. And that's when he said, I have one other item that I think we have to turn over.
That item turned out to be a green cord. Mandel told Vecchio that a private investigator removed it from the house and preserved it in an evidence bag because Dave was threatening to kill himself. Does that make sense to you?
No, makes zero sense to me. Why go get the item and then treat it as if it were a piece of evidence?
Remember, the autopsy revealed that Shanti had been strangled, and Vecchio believed there was a real possibility that the green cord could be the murder weapon. With the prosecution now in possession of that green cord, tests were conducted to see if indeed it was the murder weapon used to strangle Shanti. Is there any evidence to indicate that, in fact, that cord was used to kill Shanti?
No, that cord did not have any DNA on it.
But the cord wasn't picked up until weeks after Shanti's death, and authorities believe Dave had plenty of time to clean it. Investigators had spent months examining all the evidence, leading Vecchio to craft his own theory about when Shanti was killed.
We found one single earring was placed on the nightstand. The other earring was in Shanti's ear.
And what does that say to you?
That tells me that Shanti was most likely sitting on the side of her bed, preparing for bed, taking those earrings out, and that's when the attack happened.
The sheets and bed frame did have Shanti's blood on them, and Shanti didn't use her phone after 11:30 p.m.
The scene was consistent with this attack happening somewhere in the midnight to 2, 3 a.m. time period.
But David called 911 late in the afternoon saying he had just found Shanti floating in the tub. Zaleski says investigators are jumping to unfair conclusions.
A few hours of time off the grid doesn't allow them to shift the timeline.
Prosecutors continued to build their case even as Dave sat behind bars, listening to anyone who had information about Shanti's death, no matter how surprising the source.
I met David Tronis in 3 Whiskey.
3 Whiskey is a housing unit in the Orlando jail where Edward Gismondi shared a cell with Dave Tronis.
He slept next to me and I slept next to him.
After getting out of jail, Gismondi met with Vecchio and Sprague. He says that he and Dave began talking and bonded over a shared interest in obscure hallucinogenics, including sapo, a poison derived from a South American frog.
He said that you could use sapo to put in people's salsa and kill them quietly.
Killer's salsa might sound ridiculous, but not so far-fetched when you consider that authorities suspected that David poisoned both his wives. Gismondi supplied even more information that, if true, was truly damning. He says Dave admitted that he and Shanti had a fight before she died.
He just said there was an app on his phone that there was messages on that she had found, apparently, that suggested he was having sex with men. And she was going to show everybody.
And what did Dave say he did?
He snapped. He said he freaked out.
And did what?
He didn't specifically say that what he did, but that he had killed his wife.
Investigators were unable to corroborate Gismondi's story about the app.
We didn't have any purchase records of apps, and we did not see it on Dave's phone.
I've read your statement, and at no point do I see anywhere where you had told them that David actually said, "I killed my wife." But sitting here now, you said, Dave told you, "I killed my wife."
Yes, ma'am. In jail, he said, "I killed my wife." Word for word is what he told me.
But why wouldn't you tell the state's attorney's office that?
I did. I told him that he had snapped. That's the word that I used. I don't remember if she had asked me, did he admit to murdering her? Like, word for word like that?
One of the few things both the prosecution and the defense do agree on is that neither is sure they can believe Gismondi. He pled guilty to 1 count of lewd or lascivious behavior and is now a registered sex offender and still on probation.
This individual certainly has credibility issues.
Zaleski took over Dave's defense in early 2020 after the original attorneys withdrew from the case.
Raising doubt isn't going to be difficult here.
But Shanti's family has no doubt about what should happen to Dave.
He has to be found guilty. He is guilty.
Cindy Dow, who once found Dave so charming, feels very differently about him now.
He should be sentenced to death. I want him to remember when he looks at me. I want him to remember every lie. Every lie.
When Cindy remembers Shanti, her heart still breaks.
She was happy, giving, kind, fun, loving person who had a mission in this life, and she didn't get to fulfill it.
Tortola is a beautiful mountainous island in the Caribbean. It feels really exotic, but really safe at the same time for a tourist. The ocean all around Tortola is beautiful, clear crystal water that you can see for several feet in. Tortola is gorgeous. My name is Jen Bloom, and I'm the oldest child of David Swain. In March of 1999, my father and his wife, Shelley, put together a trip to Tortola.
I felt so lucky that her and I had found each other and connected. She was just a phenomenal, wonderful woman.
Shelley was absolutely passionate about diving. It excited her on every level.
She loved adventure. That was one of the attractions. I'm an adventurous person. She's an adventurous person.
On the last day of the trip, my father and Shelley and their friends decided they wanted to dive this site called the Twin Tugs. My father and Shelley decided to go into the water first. At some point, they separated. They usually separated on dives. Shelley is specifically interested in her fish counting project. She had a slate, and she would mark the kinds of fish she would see underwater.
And I'd go off and take pictures.
He wasn't enjoying himself. There wasn't a lot to see.
I was a little chilly, and it wasn't that great of a dive, so I decided to surface.
And my father asked, had Shelley surfaced yet, because he didn't know where she was. The other diver decided to go in. And 10 minutes later, he came up with Shelley's body. My father went to start the whole CPR process, but she was already gone.
She was not responding to anything. Nothing. I know she's dead.
He loved her so much, and he loved diving so much. And then to lose her to something he loved, no one deserves that.
And most diving accidents, for all intents and purposes, appear to be just that, accidents. My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm an underwater forensic investigator. Shelley's equipment, the mask was broken, the mouthpiece from the snorkel was dislodged. That lends itself to believe that a struggle may have ensued underwater. It is very suspicious.
She had a couple medical things that could have gone wrong.
Was it a mild stroke or a mild heart attack?
I didn't read anything in the autopsy report that would lead me to believe that it was a heart attack.
Could have been a seizure, or could have been a headache. She could have panicked.
Once panic sets in, almost every rule that you can think of is out the window.
We don't know what happened to Shelley under 75 feet of water. I would characterize it as an accident.
I truly do not believe that this was an accident. In my opinion, it was murder.
Shelley's last breath. It was the Caribbean vacation Shelley Tyre had been looking forward to. Sunning, sailing, and scuba diving with her husband and friends in Tortola. And in March 1999, it finally happened.
They put together a really fun trip. Got to do a lot of different things where they were sailing all around the British Virgin Islands, and they were diving off the sailboat they were living on.
But on that fateful last dive, something went horribly, mysteriously wrong. Now, Shelley was dead, and the Tortola police wanted to talk to her husband, David Swain. He called his daughter, Jen.
And he said, "I'm so sorry. I wasn't with her. I don't know what happened, but Shelley died today." And he was crying, and he was very upset, and he was doing his best to get her home. He said, "The autopsy's gonna happen. There's cops."
Tortola police began questioning David about every detail of the dive, and the local medical examiner performed the autopsy. But no one could figure out just how Shelley died. So after a few days with no evidence of foul play, authorities ruled Shelley's death an accident and released her body to her husband.
It had been a really rough flight. He had to load the coffin onto the plane himself.
He came off the plane.
David's son, Jeremy.
He came over to me and Jen, and he gave us a hug, and he said, "It's all right. It's going to be all right." And he was genuinely hurt.
Shelley Tyre was small in stature, but her impact on David and his children was enormous. And 10 years after her death, David still remembers why he fell in love.
She had a heart bigger than her. She had passions and drive that had no equal.
A middle school principal at prestigious Thayer Academy outside Boston, Shelley was anything but straight-laced.
The penguin plunge.
Every New Year's Day on a frigid Rhode Island beach,
500 to 1,000 people all go racing into the 37-degree water.
Shelley stripped down to her swimsuit.
The water hits you, get that sort of shock. Shelley turned this beet red color, goosebumps head to toe, shaking uncontrollably with an ear-to-ear grin.
With such a love of adventure, it was no wonder Shelley found David Swain attractive. When she met him in the early 90s, the divorced father of 2 teens was running a dive shop in Jamestown, Rhode Island. The ocean was his passion.
Bend way back with this one to push, and then you pull this one in a
My
lot.
father is a teacher. He's a naturalist by nature.
And you only have so much energy anyway.
He taught me and my brother that the most important thing in the world is to teach and share what you know and be excited about the ocean.
What we'll do is we're going to paddle out around this point. So
On one of his kayaking tours, Shelley went along.
Suddenly there was this lightning storm going on, and my father just took charge of the whole thing and attached his boat to her boat and rowed them out of it.
Shelley was impressed by David's courage and leadership. He moved in, and in October 1993, they were married. Back then, Shelley earned far more money than David.
Well, here we are at Ocean State Scuba poolside.
He says he sank nearly every dime into the dive shop.
All the training necessary.
Shelley's parents were worried, so David signed a prenuptial agreement. He would get no money if he and Shelley divorced.
Dad never cared about money.
Shelley herself couldn't have cared less about money.
No.
She just decided, this is it. This is the guy I want to be with. He loves adventure. He's not afraid, and he'll always be there.
But on that dive in Tortola, even David admits he wasn't there when Shelley needed him. While their friends stayed on the boat, David and Shelley dove into the water.
Swam our course that we had all agreed upon, got to the wrecks, and we went our separate ways, as we always did.
David says he has no idea how Shelley died because he wasn't with her. And that's exactly what he told her parents, Richard and Lisa Tyre.
We got a telephone call, and it was David.
He said Shelley's no longer with us, and he indicated he wasn't there and didn't know what had happened.
I knew that they were unhappy with me when I made the phone call that night.
We just assumed that divers always had buddies, the buddy system, and I kept saying, well, weren't you her buddy? And he said, no, I left her.
You said you split up during the dive, which you said you normally do, but doesn't that go against standard practice?
How many times?
I'm not a diver.
I understand that. How many times have you broken the speed limit? Every diver, at one time or another, is diving alone.
Shelley had done solo dives before, and David says he tried to help her parents understand what could have happened, explaining that even something small, like a headache, could have caused Shelley to lose control underwater and make a mistake.
You think it's possible she just panicked?
Sure. Panic is the end result of something else. I don't know what factor got Shelley, but I think some factor got her started. Who knows what it was?
In fact, Shelley had panicked on previous dives. She even wrote about it in her dive log, which David gave to her parents. But it didn't seem to help them.
Because they're not divers. You know, unless you're a diver, this is going to be so foreign. It would be very foreign.
But what was really foreign to her parents was how unemotional and matter-of-fact David seemed about Shelley's death.
I'm not an outwardly warm, fuzzy guy.
But your wife just died, and your behavior didn't seem appropriate for a man in mourning.
My daughter saw it, my son saw it.
But around Jamestown and at Shelley's school, the talk was about how well David was doing without Shelley.
This isn't right. He's too elated almost about this. This guy is too happy.
Don Badger taught at Thayer Academy. He says David didn't appear to be in mourning, even at the school's memorial service just weeks after Shelley's death.
There wasn't any solemnity to what he was saying, and it bothered so many of us there. It really did.
Then, when David collected more than $600,000 from her estate, he started spending a lot of money very visibly, making pricey renovations to the dive shop, taking vacations, and even dating.
People were looking for answers.
David's friend and fellow scuba instructor John Langella says despite appearances, there's no doubt in his mind that David was grieving.
I knew he was upset. He was not right. He didn't know what he was going to do. He didn't know if he could ever go back in the water.
He called me and he said, "I'm not doing well. When is this pain going to go away?"
Sandy Wheeler is David's ex-wife, Jen and Jeremy's mother, and has known him for 40 years.
He was in a lot of pain and he didn't know how to handle the pain.
But if he was in pain, the people who needed him to express it most of all were Shelley's parents. And for whatever reason, David just could not do it.
In the year or two after Shelley's death, he was not able to say the things that the Tyers needed to hear.
When I heard through the grapevine that they were starting to throw the word murder around, I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. Every cell in my body wanted to go over there and just like knock on the door and say, "Are you insane?" Diving is a beautiful sport that's inherently dangerous, and it went horribly wrong, and accidents happen.
This is just a horrible accident, a mystery.
I don't have the answers.
David Swain says his inability to explain Shelley's death led her parents to assume the worst, that he murdered their daughter.
How did that make you feel, knowing that your in-laws thought you had killed their
Sad.
daughter?
I mean, it made me sad, but
Not angry?
they didn't know diving.
1 year after Shelley's death, the Tyers hired an attorney and sent him and his team of experts to Tortola in search of the answers David didn't have.
We just want to know the facts. He never told us the facts.
Over the course of several months, the team uncovered evidence they believe proves David was lying. We asked a leading expert in underwater investigations to examine their findings.
In reviewing the facts in this case, this was much, much more than just a simple scuba diving accident.
Sergeant Jeff Morgan with the San Bernardino, California Sheriff's Department offered to sift through case documents provided by 48 Hours. He also attempted to replicate underwater key parts of Shelley and David's fatal dive.
Anywhere right around in here would
What first troubled Sergeant Morgan about the case was the short amount of time David performed CPR on Shelley.
Typically, you don't start CPR until, as a rescuer, you can no longer perform it, until you're exhausted.
How long did you perform CPR?
That's the big magic question. Minutes. Was it 5 minutes? Was it 10 minutes? Was it 4 minutes? I don't know. It was minutes.
David was very emphatic that she's gone or she's dead. I don't think it's an appropriate response. I don't think that you can declare a person dead in that short of a time span.
There was nothing left to do. Nothing. If you are performing CPR on somebody that is responsive, sure, I would have gone until hell froze over. But she was not responding to anything.
But it wasn't just David's behavior that afternoon that raised red flags. Tortolan police discovered Shelley's equipment was damaged. The police didn't make much of it, but the expert hired by her family's attorney did. Engineer Bill Oliver designs scuba gear.
What was unusual about Shelley's mask is the strap was broken from the side of the mask here, and where this pin here is intact on this mask, it was missing from hers.
Shelley's snorkel, attached to the same side of the mask as the broken pin, was also missing its mouthpiece.
My belief is something pulled the mask off of her face, And I can see a scenario where she resisted that, she held on to the mask, and in the tug of war, some things gave. Bottom line is, somebody intervened besides Shelley Tyre with this equipment to get it in that condition.
Sergeant Jeff Morgan agrees.
Shelley didn't die in an accident. She was murdered.
What's more, he says only one person could have been responsible.
In all reality, there was nobody else in the water at the time of Shelley's death but David Swain. I think that David swam up behind her and shut off the air supply, held on to her until she was struggling, reached up, grabbed the mask, ripped the mask from her face, and held on to her until she stopped struggling.
Did you kill Shelley Tyre?
Did not, would not, could not. This thought, this craziness that I would do something like that to Shelley is just so revolting.
But the Tyres insist David had a motive. Right before the trip to Tortola, Shelley decided to change jobs and take a substantial cut in pay.
The dive shop that David had was very much supported by Shelley's income. If Shelley was going to take a pay cut, his business may not survive.
According to Sergeant Morgan, that, along with the couple's prenuptial agreement, meant Shelley was worth more to David dead than alive.
That provides for a motive to commit murder.
Everybody keeps thinking that I'm doing all this for money. I'm just as happy being flat broke as I am when I'm fat and rich. Probably happier flat broke. It's less hassle.
The Tyres weren't buying it. They were now convinced David murdered their daughter. But authorities in Tortola still refused to rule Shelley's death a homicide. So in 2006, the Tyres sued David in a Rhode Island civil court for wrongful death.
Is that part of the reason why you're fighting this? To keep Shelley's memory alive?
Yes, yes, very much so.
In a videotaped deposition, David testified he and Shelley swam together for 10 to 15 minutes before they separated.
I have a vague recollection of circumnavigating the wrecks, poking around the wrecks, and seeing Shelley still interested in looking at something around there. And that's the last time I saw her as I swam off towards the reef.
But the Tyres attorney tried to prove David was with Shelley when she drowned. Based on the air left in Shelley's tank, he calculates she stopped breathing just 8 minutes into her dive.
She battled for her life. At the point and place and time exactly when he was with her, she was burning her air. Right up to the point where he shut it off.
He then showed the jury a videotape demonstration that he and his team prepared, illustrating their theory of how David Swain swam up behind Shelley, turned off her air, and killed her. In less than 3 hours, the jury found David Swain responsible for Shelley's death and awarded the Tyres $3.5 million. But the Tyres say this has never been about the money.
Money has nothing to do with it. Nothing. We just want Shelley.
Armed with a civil court victory, the Tyres attorney convinced Tortolan authorities to reopen their investigation. A year and a half later, island prosecutors charged David Swain with the murder of his wife. David did not fight extradition and wound up in a Tortolan jail.
What? Now what do we do? Who does this?
With his trial now looming, Jen and Jeremy will travel to the island to help prove their father is innocent. But before they can do that, their father will first have to explain this woman. "10 years after his fatal vacation with Shelley, David Swain again has a Caribbean view. But this time, it's from inside a jail cell in Her Majesty's prison on Tortola. He has been here awaiting trial for nearly 2 years.
It's a journey that I didn't want to take, but if I'm forced to take it, I'm going to do the best I can with it.
His children, Jen and Jeremy, have come to Tortola to help him prepare his defense.
He's very hopeful. He believes. He has to believe. We all of us have to put 100% of our belief into that this will be okay. This is a man's life we're talking about.
Even as Jen and Jeremy are fighting for their father, their stepmother, Shelley, is still very much on their minds.
I wanted to go to a place that would be special to me, where I could pay my respects in peace, doing something that Shelley and I shared, because Shelley and I used to dive together too. See you in a few. We went down the line, and I had her wreath up on my arm. There was a pipe, and I put the wreath down on top of that. That was it. I said goodbye.
Jeremy said goodbye, but could not let go of a troublesome detail.
I went back a couple more times because what was coming out really bothered me.
He was most bothered by claims that his father was with Shelley when she stopped breathing. Prosecution experts claim that the amount of air left in Shelley's tank showed that she was alive for only 8 minutes.
I went down to the site. I used that amount of air that she consumed, and it took me 15 minutes.
Jeremy says the prosecution's 8-minute calculation doesn't add up. He says Shelley just wouldn't breathe air that quickly.
Not if she was running a marathon under the water would she have ever used up air that fast.
The only explanation, according to Jeremy, is that Shelley was alive a lot longer than prosecution experts believe, meaning David would have been long gone and nearly back to the boat at the time of Shelley's death.
The only thing that everybody can agree on is that there was some external force applied to her equipment.
For his criminal trial, David has the help of 2 experienced Boston defense attorneys, Tim Bradle and Neil Tassel. They argue that Shelley could have ripped off her own mask in a panic.
It's right in the PADI Beginner's Manual. Panic divers are prone to reject their gear. In other words, rip their mask off.
You believe that she panicked underwater?
Absolutely. That's what all the evidence appears to be.
Now, with these lawyers helping to prepare for the criminal trial, David's children are feeling hopeful about their chances.
We know the truth is on our side, so we actually have the upper hand. If you just stay with the truth, it's all going to be good.
But staying with the truth will mean talking about another possible motive for murder. About a year before Shelley's death, David got very friendly with a chiropractor who visited his dive shop named Mary Bassler.
Mary Bassler came along, bright, happy woman, willing to talk.
Mary Bassler might have been willing to talk, but when David kissed her one summer night, she told him she was not willing to get involved with a married man.
I'm as guilty of being curious beyond what I should have as anybody.
Perhaps still curious, David wrote Mary that fall, inviting her to spend the weekend with him in Killington, Vermont. The letter said, "I promise to return you in a rejuvenated state or in need of rest, whichever strikes our fancy."
You invited her to Killington for the weekend. Wasn't that going to be the beginning of something?
No.
It was just going to be a friendly weekend in Killington?
You make it sound like a guy can't have a girlfriend.
Did your wife know that you invited her?
No.
Mary didn't go to Killington, but soon David wrote Mary again, telling her, "I'm wanting to be with you, but I can't change this mess I've got anytime soon."
You made a reference to a mess that you need to get out of.
Well, I think I made a mess by letting my curiosity get the best of me.
You weren't describing your marriage to Shelley as a mess.
No.
David addressed that letter to soulmate Mary.
You thought Mary was your soulmate?
It's a nice word, isn't it?
Did you envision a future with Mary Bassler?
At that time, no.
But according to both David and Mary, after that kiss, nothing happened between them.
It was a stupid, inconsiderate mistake.
That is, until Shelley Tyre died. 2 months after the fatal trip to Tortola, David Swain and Mary Bassler started a relationship.
When my father started dating Mary soon after Shelley's death, I remember thinking, he's running. He's never dealt with emotion in a strong way. It's starting to come up, and so he's running to this woman.
David and Mary dated for about a year.
I don't think it's about whether he was having an affair or not. It's about whether he killed his wife or not.
David's ex-wife, Sandy Wheeler.
I asked him straight out, did you do this? And he said, no, I did not do this. And I believe him.
What prompted you to ask him, did he kill Shelley Tyre?
I think I just needed to hear it from him. I never thought he did it, but I think I just needed to hear it from him.
You were married for 12 years?
Yeah.
And within that time, did you ever see a violent side
Never.
to David?
No, never.
But it turns out, David's early life was far from peaceful.
David was a person who kind of wanted to leave things, the past is the past.
And now, with his life on the line, David Swain's defense will delve into secrets he has protected for decades.
His mother died the first year we were together.
From what?
She was killed.
They went from respecting him as the man that their daughter chose to spend the rest of her life with, to calling him a murderer. They basically made him the scapegoat for a mystery that can't be solved.
While the mystery may never be solved, Jen and Jeremy are hoping at the very least evidence presented in a Tortola court can convince the Tyres that their father is an innocent man.
He's never given us reason to doubt him.
He's a quiet guy, he's a reserved guy. He doesn't express himself particularly well. I really feel in a big way that those things put him in jail.
It was, after all, David's unemotional, strangely detached response to Shelley's death that first raised the suspicions of her parents. But Jen says that's the way her dad has always been.
My father was uncomfortable around emotion and emotional experiences. And I never, ever saw him upset.
That dispassionate demeanor, says Jen, is the product of an unspeakably horrific past.
He grew up in a very complicated and abusive household. There was sexual and verbal abuse going on.
When David was 9 years old, his father, Donald Swain, was convicted of sexually abusing another young family member and sentenced to 2 years in prison.
He grew up learning to not speak about things because it just made it worse when he did.
David says he, too, was preyed upon by his father.
What happened to you at the hands of your father?
Horrible things.
Can you share some of them?
No, I'm not going to share those.
In the early 1970s, Donald Swain began living as a woman and changed his name to Diane. It seemed to leave another scar on David. But it was in 1976 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, that David's already fragile world completely shattered.
His brother murdered his mother when I was a baby.
47-year-old Betty Swain was bludgeoned to death by her own son, David's 18-year-old brother, Richard.
Your own brother killed your mother?
Yes.
How did that affect you?
Horribly. That was just another incredible loss.
David was 20 years old when his mother's body was found in the family station wagon 5 miles away from her home.
Sons don't kill mothers.
Former Minneapolis Assistant District Attorney Jim Erickson remembers Betty Swain's murder for its brutality.
I think a garbage bag was put on her head, and she was then hit again and again. There was plastic embedded deep in her head, in her skull.
After a 9-day-long trial, a jury found Richard Swain guilty.
This kid killed his mom. He just snapped.
33 years later, David Swain, just like his brother, stands accused of murder.
No shortage of tragedy in our lives. I don't know if you've had the occasion to suffer a loss where you didn't get to say goodbye, but I've had 2 now, and that's just wrong.
As David's trial approaches, his attorneys Neil Tassel and Tim Bradle hope to use the traumas of David's past to explain how his bizarre response to Shelley's drowning turned an accident into an accusation of murder.
He is a peculiar personality who, because of his traumatic upbringing, deals with emotional events in a very stunted way. And it was misperceived by Shelley's parents, who essentially started a boulder rolling down off a mountain that was not going to stop.
But the defense's biggest worry: what will happen when this emotionally crippled man takes the stand to defend himself in court?
I can't control what's going to happen. I just have to let it happen.
He's scared, as anyone would be, thousands of miles away from home, accused of murder.
10 years after Shelley Tyer's death, David Swain's murder trial in Tortola is finally underway. Shelley's elderly parents have flown in, determined to see justice done.
They lost their daughter, and we'll never know how. They know they'll never know how.
For Jen and Jeremy, seeing the 2 people who they once considered their grandparents is particularly painful.
The times that I tried to connect with them over the grief of losing Shelley, I was rebuffed. They don't want anything to do with me.
But they were forced to sit uncomfortably close to each other in the tiny courtroom. Cameras were not allowed, but microphones recorded the moment when prosecutor Terrence Williams laid out David's motive for murder: money and another woman.
This man here, his wife is killed, and all his dreams came true. All his dreams came true.
Most damning, says the prosecutor. Within months of burying his dead wife, David rekindles his relationship with Mary Bassler.
The wife dies in March, and by May, they are having intimacy.
It painted David Swain in a very bad light.
David's defense team is working with local counsel Hayden St. Clair Douglas.
It was a jury of 9 people, 7 of whom were women.
Women jurors who he believes won't like the idea of David dating Mary so soon after Shelley's death. But that's not the defense team's only worry. Prosecutors show the jury Shelley's damaged diving gear, tell them how David stopped giving her CPR, and present their theory that David held her down and turned her air off.
They had to come up with some kind of scary story that would make the jurors who are not divers all say, oh, that's what happened.
David's only chance: take the stand to defend himself. His defense attorney questions him first.
Did you kill Shelley Tyer?
I did not, could not, would not dream of taking the rock of my life out of the world. No, I did not.
Did you in any way deprive Shelley Tyer of air?
The last thing in the world is I would deprive Shelley of anything. So I certainly didn't deprive her of air.
Then the prosecutor tries to rattle David.
You held her down.
I did not.
And made her become unconscious.
I did not.
David begins to lose his patience when Prosecutor Williams pushes him about those letters he wrote to Mary Bassler, calling her his soulmate and inviting her to spend the weekend.
You desired her.
I certainly desired her friendship.
You desired her in a sexual nature.
Not the way you're suggesting, no.
Do you often write love letters to ladies?
No. These are not a love letter.
These are not love letters?
This is not a love letter.
Okay.
You came off as arrogant, a little hostile. smug. What were you thinking when you were up there? I mean, this is a moment for you to win sympathy from the jurors, to make a connection with them.
And how well do you know me?
Not well at all. But I know how you're supposed to comport yourself if your life is on the line.
So you would want me to be something I'm not. I am what I am. I think people would want the truth.
In what seems like a fatal blow to the defense, the judge refuses to allow certain testimony about how long Shelley was alive underwater.
We had data on her air consumption that was derived from her own dive logs.
A defense expert was prepared to testify that Shelley's last breath occurred more than 20 minutes into the dive, long after David says he left her side.
Unfortunately, the judge viewed our data with suspicion, and I don't know why.
But the prosecution does present its evidence that Shelley died 8 minutes into the dive, when they say David was still with her.
That's when I started to get really scared. That was the first day I thought we could lose.
Now it's all up to the jury. It takes them only 4 hours to reach a verdict.
Up until I saw the jury walking in, I was pretty hopeful.
Guilty of the offense of murder.
David Swain has been found guilty of the murder of his wife, Shelley Tyre.
David Swain is sentenced to life behind bars. As authorities take their father away, his children are stunned and angry.
I have never doubted my father's innocence.
At all.
He is
Our father
completely
is an
innocent.
innocent man.
The jury made a mistake today. They made a mistake
The prosecution did not allow our witnesses to say their full share. Our father is an innocent man.
But Richard and Lisa Tyre say that they know the truth, and they thought their long journey to get justice for Shelley had ended.
We feel extremely good that people like David Swain won't be able to hurt any more women.
From his Tortola jail cell, David Swain could still see the ocean he loved so much. He could even taste the salt in the air, but he wondered if it would ever wash over him again.
Do you think you'll ever walk?
Will I ever walk out of here as a free person?
Yeah.
To not think that would be to give up. I'm not going to give up.
Swain did not give up. 2 years after his conviction, a 3-judge panel overturned his guilty verdict because the trial judge had refused to let the jury consider accidental death as a defense. The judges also decided there would be no new trial. Too much time has passed, and witness memories have faded since Shelley's death more than a decade ago. David Swain walked out of court a free man.
No judicial body has declared him innocent.
The Tyre's attorney, Ren Olin, spoke for the family.
And 2 distinctly different juries have found him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the murder of Shelley Tyre.
Swain quickly returned to the United States and issued a written statement still insisting Shelley's death was an accident. But for the Tyre family, David Swain is still a guilty man.
For a parent whose daughter has been murdered, it will never go away.
We ready? That's a question New Yorkers have been asking themselves a lot lately. Are we ready for another blackout, or a bus hijacking, or a bombing, or another murder by the .44 caliber killer?
I know that I'm not usually known for any public exhibitions of temper, but I want you to know I'm damned angry.
The city is preoccupied with the killer who in one note signed himself the Son of Sam.
he is compelled to kill.
I think people are really shook up.
People wouldn't come out at night. They're really scared.
The whole city was kind of like in lockdown. No one stayed out past 10 o'clock.
People were terrified.
And the girl was covered in blood.
Oh my God, we've been shot. I should have been dead.
I guess on one hand, I was happy to be alive. A lot of people died from the same gun.
He struck again over the weekend, shooting a young couple in a Brooklyn lovers lane, and today the girl died, the killer's 6th victim. He's wounded 7 others.
It's just scary. It's frightening. When you're walking, people just look over their shoulder.
That's all they do is talk about the killer.
Walks up to strangers, usually couples in parked cars, and shoots them with a large bore revolver.
Police say they are nowhere near solving the case.
If you're asking whether we have any indication of who he is or where he might be, the answer is no.
To do this to a young girl and a young boy, he's not human.
He was writing about a dog that talked to him, gave him orders to kill.
I mean, he just was going out 30 nights a month looking for someone to kill.
He terrified the city. I mean, I've never seen people like that.
Yeah, I see that people will never understand where I came from. No matter how much I try to explain it, they wouldn't understand what it was to walk in darkness.
I remember we were an hour away from the city, and everybody was afraid. After all that, to find out that this was a sort of a, what people describe him as this chubby, shy, lonely guy who had the whole city buckling at its knees, afraid. It's a strange sensation. Serial killer's about to walk in here and talk with us. I think there he goes right there. That looked like him, right?
Hello, hey, God bless you.
Maurice Dubois.
It's an honor to meet you, sir. God to meet you.
Thank you for talking with us.
Sure, okay, it's a big step, I have
step?
my misgivings and nervousness and all those other things, but
Understood. Is this a special place for you?
yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a place of refuge. Refuge from the storms of life. And if you know anything about prison, there's a lot of storms. It's not exactly a happy place. In prison, men are walking around carrying a lot of pain. I know I have a lot of pain inside me over things that happened, and this is a place where you could come and pour your heart out to God. My name is David Berkowitz, and I've been locked up since the time of my arrest, just under 40 years.
You just turned 64.
Yeah, I just turned 64, yeah.
How do the guys look at you? How do they see you? How do they perceive you?
Some guys, really, again, because of the passing of time, they're not even familiar with the case or anything. They may have heard about it, but it doesn't, just another face in the crowd. No special attention, no special anything. That's the way I want it to be.
In the summer of 1977, New York lost its mind. Well, this was a city that looked like Berlin after the war. It was devastated. There were abandoned buildings. There were waves of arson in which people were afraid to go to bed at night. We had a blackout in which 3,000 people were arrested.
It makes you really want to throw up when you look at what's happened. And we got to live here. It's no place for us to go.
We had the FALN, the Puerto Rican terrorist group, planting bombs in department stores. We had a record heat wave. George Willig, a mountain climber from Queens, climbing up the outside of the World Trade Center. It was a very, very different time, and people were afraid to walk around. 1977, among other things, was the year that Studio 54 opened. It was a time of sexual liberation, perhaps the last gasps of the anything goes sexual revolution.
I like to disco. As a single woman, I feel safe here.
This was the era of Saturday Night Fever, and it was that throbbing music that became the backdrop for all the wacky behavior that was going on in the city at the time, including a murder spree by a serial killer.
In New York early this morning, a mystery deepened and a manhunt intensified. A young couple was shot and wounded while sitting in a parked car.
Most of the victims have been young women with shoulder-length dark brown hair who were gunned down as they sat in parked cars or walked the sidewalks of the Bronx and Queens.
And you're dealing with a crazy guy, you go up to two innocent girls sitting in a car and shoot them, or a guy and a girl in a car and you shoot them for no reason. I wanted to know why he did what he did. That's the one thing about all of these girls in these cases and guys. They did nothing to contribute to their own demise. They were sitting, talking to each other, and this guy killed them.
I grew up in the Bronx. I had good times and bad times. I had some struggles over certain issues that happened, but I also had times of adventure when I played ball with my friends. Really was, in many ways, a normal childhood, but that also wrestled with self-destructive behavior.
Why?
Well, when I was about 4 or 5, I learned that I was adopted. And when I asked about, who my parents were at birth, my dad and mom, well-meaning, told me that my mother died while giving birth to me. Later on, I found out that, of course, she was alive and well. We had a wonderful reunion.
It wasn't even true what they told you.
Yeah, they meant well because they were told by the experts. That's what you tell an adopted child when because they're going to naturally ask questions. I look at your retrospect, that characterized much of my life. I struggled with a lot of depression as a child and obsessions with death because I thought I deserved to die.
So take me to when you're 14. Your mom dies.
Yeah, that was a difficult time, yeah. Well, just when you lose someone that you love, there's a sense of mourning. I try to put it out of my mind. I was carrying around a lot of guilt. I was carrying around a lot of shame that I deserved to be punished. I can't explain those things.
For your mom's death?
Yeah, maybe I was angry at God and then, my birth mother, and then, of course, my adoptive mother, too. I found it very difficult.
The victim that's selected usually satisfies something on a fantasy level. A punishing mother, could be a wife. And so every time he commits the crime against the person that has this thing, he's satisfying this basic need of getting back at the original individual that he had difficulty with.
It was just a challenge. It was a challenge, but I ended up doing okay. It was my dad really kept on me to finish school. I graduated from Christopher Columbus High School and in 1971, and I joined the Army.
He went into the service and a drastic change took place and a different man came out than went in.
What do you mean a different man went out? How did he change?
I went to Korea, and I'll never forget that. You see the advertisements on TV of the guys jumping out of planes and all these exciting things, and you find out Army life is kind of mundane and routine. You just turned 18, I'm trying to find my way in life. I wanted to see the world.
A man that went in relatively mellow, relatively peaceful, turned around and became a man that was more interested in the fantasy in the world than the reality.
After I got out of the service, I went to look up a lot of old friends, guys I used to hang out with and things, and found that everybody pretty much moved on in the 3 years of my absence. So I came back, found out I was on my own kind of, and wanted to eventually get my own apartment. Wanted to find a girl, maybe get married and raise a family, and I had all kinds of perfectly normal hopes and dreams.
What would you tell 23-year-old David Berkowitz today?
Turn around before it's too late because destruction is coming,
Berkowitz lived in Yonkers, north of New York. Police described him as a loner. His neighbors discussed their impressions with CBS News correspondent Bill McLaughlin.
He seemed strange to you?
Not strange. When he came in, you know, he spoke what's happening and everything, but
he was friendly then?
Yeah, he didn't seem strange. Yeah, I never suspect him in this build. Out of every building in Yonkers, he's in 35 Pine Street, you know, that shocks me.
So you're living in Yonkers, you move up to Yonkers. You have an apartment up on the 7th floor, 7E. It's a nice spot. You're looking out over the Hudson River.
Yeah, the building was not anyway peaceful.
Not that way? What was it like?
It was just chaotic. It was just
Chaotic.
a strange place. There was a strange spirit there.
You live right here in this building. 2, 3, 4. Used to be number 35. Changed the number in hopes of maybe made people feel a little better.
If they don't recognize where the building is, then I say, do you remember Son of Sam? Oh, I know where the building is.
Really?
So they know.
People are familiar with it.
Yeah, a lot of people know what happened.
It's still hard to believe that even something like that exists in this world. I mean, who goes around killing people? I don't know anybody like that.
No, you try not to think of things like that. It's people in the neighborhood that knew him. They say, you know, he was very, you know, cool with the kids, used to give them ice cream, things like that. And like, he was a functional man.
Just another guy.
Yeah.
What about the idea that he shot Sam Carr's dog right behind here?
This dog, his master is a 6,000-year-old being talking to him through this dog, and he's baying for blood.
The dog got on Berkowitz's nerves. Apparently the dog barked too much. Berkowitz could hear him from his window. He tried to kill the dog. The dog didn't die. And then he said, in his own twisted way, that the dog told him to kill. So Berkowitz lived on the top floor. He had a clear view right into the backyard here, where the dog lived, owned by a guy named Sam Carr. Hence the name Son of Sam.
I wasn't comfortable there. I felt very isolated. I didn't really have much of a social life. I started to get into a lot of satanic stuff. So I really was opening myself up to some very dark forces.
It's not like he had a friend or anything. There was nobody. He had a hole in the wall in his apartment. It said that Mrs. something or other and her kids live in the wall. You know, he's certifiably nuts.
Well, there was just a battle going on inside me. You know?
In your head?
Well, wherever, you know, just a battle going on, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess here's the thing. He's a Christian man, a man who knows right from wrong, who's had loving parents, right? Who's very thoughtful. Yet at some point there, you killed 2 people to start this whole thing.
She was 18-year-old Donna Loria, who was sitting in a parked car with a friend late at night when her parents heard the shots.
I ran down. By the time I got down, she was dead in the street. My daughter was 18 years old, and that's what he took out of my heart, 18 years.
It was a very troubled time, yeah.
Right. But then he did it again.
It started out as a typical Friday night, drove to 159th Street and 32nd Avenue. Basically, we started making out, and like 2 minutes later, yeah, it was shut in the back of the head, but you know, on the top, the windows just shattered, so I had pieces of glass all over my arms. I didn't know I was shot, but I knew something terrible had happened. The skull was blown away. The only thing protecting my brain from the outside world was a flap of skin.
Well, things happen, yeah, but that's it, you know.
And then again. Then we get to November. We have DeMasi and Lamino. They're shot.
Yeah, they're standing on the stoop, and he walks up, and he fires at them.
So at this point, you have nothing. What are you thinking?
We're thinking we got a tough case here.
Police have been engaged in an intensive hunt for a man known as the .44 caliber killer. There's widespread apprehension that his crime spree is not over.
I mean, it just kept going for more than a year.
The hardest cases in the world for homicide detectives are strangers. Stranger on stranger. You have very little to go with because you don't have a motive. You may not have any witnesses, right? So you're at a dead standstill.
Was there any common thread with all of these families, victims of Son of Sam?
Well, the common thread was these were their, 20-year-olds, their young, their children.
We've got Christine Front. Again, this shooting?
Right.
Is there any suspicion?
Yes.
At least 2 witnesses say the gunman walked up to the car, crouched, then fired 4 shots.
One of the detectives come over to me and he says, that's a big bullet. He says, and we had a shooting in the 105 with a big bullet. And then they also had one in Queens. So that stirred me up a little bit.
The .44 bullet is big, nearly twice as big as the conventional .38 caliber police handgun ammunition. The .44 is designed, they say, to kill.
Then we get to March. Virginia, the student,
shoots her right in the face. Starts to get a little curious now because that shooting is only a block away from where Christine Freund was murdered. We don't really get into the serial killer until the incident in the Bronx.
April 17th, 1977.
That will go down in infamy.
Until then, you just had a series of shootings without any real sense.
But again, we were having, at that time, probably, 1,500 homicides a year. The big thing about this one was the .44 caliber bullets.
Now, it's not just a bullet.
It left a letter to me. I was home in bed and I got a call. Looks like our boy. Why? Big bullet. Big bullet. So now I got dressed and I went to the Bronx.
You get to the scene, you get this letter, you read the letter, what do you think?
To me, it looked like some kind of a psychopath wrote this letter. Mr. Borelli, sir, I don't want to kill anymore. No, sir, no more, but I must honor thy father. I am deeply hurt by your calling me a woman hater. I am not, but I am a monster. I am the Son of Sam.
As far as I'm concerned, that was not me. That was not me. That name, I hate that name. I despise that name.
Which name?
That moniker, Son of Sam. That was not. That was a demon. That was a demonic entity that I was serving in my ignorance, in my shame.
This is no longer a city case. This is now going to get nationwide attention.
No one in the city of 8 million knows who is next.
In New York early this morning, the .44 caliber killer tried to kill again.
That was just a break from reality. I thought I was doing something to appease the devil. I'm sorry for it, but I really don't want to talk about it anymore.
Appease the devil?
Well, I was, at this time, I was serving him. I was serving him. I feel that he had taken over my mind and body, and I just surrendered to those very dark forces. I regret that with all my heart, but that was like 40 years ago.
Effectively, it was him winning over us each time he got away with it.
The only substantial clues so far have been 2 letters, including one mailed to the New York Daily News.
The killer chose Jimmy Breslin as his conduit to a larger public.
Jimmy Breslin was a great columnist for the New York Daily News. He was sort of the voice of the people, related to people on a very visceral level. And it was no accident that the Son of Sam killer started writing to him. Hello from the gutters of NYC, which are filled with dog manure, vomit, stale wine, urine, and blood. Hello from the sewers of NYC, which swallow up these delicacies when they are washed away by the sweeper trucks. JB, I'm just dropping you a line to let you know that I appreciate your interest in those recent and horrendous .44 caliber killings.
In '77 is when the newspapers, started to cover this.
Yeah.
.44 caliber killer.
Whatever.
Son of Sam. You would see this stuff. It was on the newspaper, on the TV, on the radio. It was everywhere.
I don't want to discuss that. Yeah.
Well, when we realized that this was an authentic letter that he had sent to the Daily News, on one level, we were thrilled because it gave us access to the killer.
What I thought was one of the most disgusting episodes I've seen in journalism.
Are you suggesting that murder isn't a big story?
I think murder, as the story became in the papers, it was blown ludicrously out of proportion and with very unhealthy social results.
Jimmy Breslin wrote one to him, figuring that would trigger Berkowitz to respond again. And I didn't mind that because I said the more he responds, the more of the opportunity for us to solve the case.
Jimmy was engaging in this written dialogue with the killer for any number of reasons. One, because there might be more clues as to his identity, and two, because it was an ongoing tabloid story that obviously would sell newspapers.
I mean, he just was going out 30 nights a month looking for someone to kill.
Did you ever have a moment saying, geez, did I cause this? Did this column trigger this nut?
No.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that the police department was put under a lot of pressure by the press.
A slow Son of Sam news day would be 7 or 8 pages.
Detectives would walk out and they'd have a TV crew follow them.
The New York Mafia is trying to track the killer down.
The press stoked Berkowitz, but it also incited 20 million people.
We used to stay in front of my house and park, and kiss goodnight, but we can't do that no more.
An element of fear pervades neighborhoods which have not known fear before.
People wouldn't come out at night. They're really scared. And I mean, when they're scared, that's all they do is talk about the killer.
Civilian patrolling has been stepped up in the neighborhood. Some women in the area are terrified, particularly ones with shoulder-length dark brown hair.
People going out cutting their hair and dyeing it.
They were bleaching their hair, becoming blondes.
Literally at night, sometimes 1,000, 2,000 guys who were just out there patrolling, looking for this guy.
Those phones rang 24 hours.
But you guys were everywhere. You shut down lovers' lanes.
I think all the motel owners in the city loved us. We forced everything indoors.
I'm leaving my house and I'm walking down the steps and my mom turns to me and she says, "Robert, be careful." And I turned around and the next thing I said was, I'll never forget this, "Ma, don't worry, I'm going out with a blonde tonight."
Good evening. In New York early this morning, the .44 caliber killer tried to kill again.
Robert Violante, 20 years old. Stacy Moskowitz, also age 20, blonde. Both shot twice in the head as they sat in their car near the ocean in the Brooklyn section of New York. It was their first date.
She was just a very bubbly, alive, full of life young lady.
Now it's Saturday night, the 31st of July, 1977.
Correct. And we went to see the very popular movie back then, New York, New York, with Liza Minnelli. And it was a great movie. And it was just a great night.
Well, what happens after the movies?
So now we decide to drive to one of the, as they call it, a lover's lane. Now we're sitting there a couple of minutes and we're just talking, kissing a little bit and talking. And Stacy turns to me and says, "Robert, you know what? I'm getting a little nervous." She said, "Robert, let's go." And I said, 5 more minutes. And in that 5 minutes is when we got shot. And I'm screaming now, blowing the horn. "Help us, we've been shot, we've been shot." The horn died.
What do you remember from the shooting itself?
The bullet totally destroyed the left eye and most of my right eye. And, full of blood, I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see Stacy sitting right next to me. I heard some moaning coming from Stacy.
This evening, hospital officials said Miss Moskowitz remains in critical condition after 8 hours of surgery. She is given a 50-50 chance of living. Violante's condition is guarded. He has lost the use of his left eye and probably will retain only 10% of the vision in his right eye.
What can you tell me about your son?
We brought him up the right way. Good boy, never had any trouble. Never involved in any dope, never involved in any arrests. What can I say?
You told him to stay out of Queens.
I told him to stay out of Queens. He says, Dad, I'm going to stay out of Queens, because he used to go to Queens. He says, I'll do it for you and Mom. I'll hang around in Brooklyn. And that's where they found him.
Violante, I remember his father was just distraught, totally distraught, because he had seen the results of what had happened to his son.
He was my best friend in the world. He was there for me every minute of the day when I was in the hospital. I think it was my dad that told me about Stacy.
At 5:22 p.m. Monday, Stacy Moskowitz stopped living. The doctors said they had not turned off the life support. It was just that the horrible damage done by a .44 caliber bullet in the brain was too much.
She wasn't worried, because she says, I got blonde hair and, I told her, I don't know how many times, to be careful.
My daughter is dead, but I would die right here and now to see this man punished. To do this to a young girl and a young boy. If I lost a child, that woman has a son that's blind. To do this to young people, he can't be normal. He's not normal.
And that's the saddest part, that I never got to really know Stacy.
You still think about it to this day?
Yeah, that was really, really the sad part.
But when Stacy Moskowitz was killed, Berkowitz got a ticket for parking his car in front of a fire hydrant.
Yeah. There was a woman there who said, I did see somebody get a summons on a fire hydrant in front of my house.
We immediately started looking at the summonses. All right, they run the plate, and the plate number comes back to David Berkowitz, his address in Yonkers.
Comes out to David Berkowitz, 35 Pine Street. They now decide, again, thinking it's a witness, to call him. So they call the Yonkers Police Department. The girl on the switchboard, she says, who to? David Berkowitz, 35 Pine. She says, that guy is crazy. He shot my father's dog. I know that guy. What's your father's name? Sam Carr.
Wheat Carr, who's Sam Carr's daughter, lives next door to David Berkowitz, owns the dog that Berkowitz shot.
So, that was like, all of these things fell in one phone call.
Everybody's antenna goes up.
When they get up there, they swing by his house, and they see his car. They look in the car, and they see a letter to the Suffolk Police Department, and they see a duffel bag that had a gun in it, a big rifle. And here comes Berkowitz with a little brown paper bag with his .44 gun in it. Goes to the car, they jump him.
And he says, you got me. He says, I'm the son of Sam.
At about 1 this morning, 24-year-old David Berkowitz, who detectives believe is the son of Sam, was brought to police headquarters in Manhattan. He was wearing frayed jeans and an open sports shirt, and he was smiling slightly.
They caught him, they caught the piece of garbage. I'll never forget that, my friend Nicky.
What'd you say?
I was so elated, so happy. I said, thank God he's off the streets. He's not gonna ever be able to hurt anybody else again.
I really can't describe how I felt. It was, I guess, a little bit of everything. A little bit of excitement, a little bit of relief, a little bit of closure. When I saw the front page, I was like, wow, I didn't expect them to look like that.
Police ran ballistics tests this morning on the .44 caliber gun they say Berkowitz bought from someone else who got it in Texas.
It's an infamous gun. I could picture the damage that this thing did. You know, when you're looking at the scene of the crime.
The ballistics section has just called and told us that the .44 caliber gun recovered tonight has been tested, and the bullets match the bullets recovered from Stacy Moskowitz.
What does this mean?
It means we have the gun to kill Stacy Moskowitz.
I mean, these were beautiful young people.
Yeah, I understand that, but again, there's no, you know, it's just the way things turn out. It's regrettable, but that's it, you know.
Did you do all these crimes alone?
Well,
Now, years later, he tells everyone that he was part of a cult, and he was merely one of the shooters.
You know, he's wacky, you know? I mean, so for him to say that he's part of a cult, you know, it was just something he came up with like everything else, you know?
well, I felt that there were demons with me, but that was, I'll have to save that for another time.
But you're the sole person who pulled the trigger, correct?
Well, a lot of things wouldn't happen in that case, but I take responsibility, you know, and that's it, yeah.
You take responsibility for all the Son of Sam murders.
Right, yeah.
There was nobody else involved.
Let's just put it this way, they were demons, and that was it.
You leaving the door open, or is that?
Well, one day maybe I have a chance to share more, but that's we'll leave that at that, you know.
We shot all that down, you know, and I think I told you, the biggest claim to fame was when they used to say that, the cult, I said, did we have an incident after we locked up Berkowitz?
The killing stopped.
Did the killing stop? Yeah.
For him to say years later that he was part of a cult, you know, it's just more attention. That's all it's about with him.
But there are people who believe it.
I'm just telling you, the people that say they believe in it never interviewed David Berkowitz. They never sat the way I did.
In this room?
In this room, in this corner.
Just step back for a second. You walk in.
I walk in.
You lay eyes on him. What are you thinking? What do you see? What does he look like?
Well, first I'm looking at him to see what he looks like. I said, so what happened here? You know, how did it start? 30 minutes, he goes from beginning to end, tells me the whole story. He was relaxed.
What kind of demeanor? He's saying this with a straight face.
He was talking about it the way you were talking about making a pastrami sandwich. To just talk about it like that was scary. I thought he absolutely felt he was certifiably wacky. And I thought they would just put him in an institution.
The accused killer is now undergoing a court-ordered psychological examination at the Kings County Medical Center in Brooklyn, where he will be held in maximum security for up to 30 days.
It will engage in a normal psychiatric examination.
Dr. Schwartz, he was a court-appointed psychiatrist to analyze him to see if he was fit to stand trial. And he determined he was fit for trial. So this insane business, that goes out the window.
There was no outward sign of emotion, no expressed remorse today as David Berkowitz pleaded guilty in a Brooklyn, New York court to 6 random Son of Sam murders, slayings which terrorized New York for more than a year.
So you show up in court when Berkowitz was going to be sentenced for the first time.
Yeah.
He said some foul things about Stacy.
Oh, yeah.
To a weird nursery rhyme-like tune, Berkowitz, who had never known Stacy Moskowitz, sang Stacy was a whore. Mrs. Moskowitz bolted out of her seat and screamed back, "You animal!" And then Robert Violante, Stacy's date the night she died, rose and shouted, "You creep!"
I reacted. Go yourself, you piece of shit. You should die. You should rot in hell. I just went off on him.
Robert Violante explained his courtroom outburst.
Total anger. That's it, just total outrage, and I really couldn't control myself.
3 weeks after his wild courtroom outburst, which led to a delay for further psychiatric evaluation, David Berkowitz, again judged competent to face sentencing, arrived to learn his fate. Berkowitz, who just turned 25, was given a total of 6 sentences for murder of 25 years to life.
What do you say to the victims' families, to the victims who are still living today?
Well, I've apologized many times, and I just always let them know that I'm very sorry for what happened, that I wish I could go back and change things, and that I hope these people are getting along in life as best as possible. I never forget, where I came from and what my situation was like some 4 decades ago. People that were hurt, people that are still in pain, suffering loss because of my criminal actions. And I never forget that. That sometimes weighs very heavy on me. Yeah.
It kind of took over my personality. And wherever I went, everything would just stop. And you just hear whispering. That's the guy that was shot by Son of Sam. And it got to the point where it became disturbing for me. And I really felt like I was losing my identity.
Didn't have any children, so never got married, never had children. Unfortunately, he ruins not just my life, 12 other lives, plus the families. So, how do you forgive something like that? Somebody like that? You don't.
When you think about the irony, I mean, here's a kid who lost his mom at 14, and you think about the depth of the pain that you felt. And then, years later, because of you,
yeah, sure, right.
6 people have that same kind of pain.
Oh, right.
7 others injured for life.
Mm-hmm.
How's that strike you?
It's very painful. It's very painful. I carry around a pain too. Not the same kind, but one that I'm aware of what happened, Yeah. I draw comfort, if you could call it that, from reading about in the scriptures about some of the well-known Bible characters that did very bad things, and how God forgave them, and God was able to use them in very special ways, very unique ways, and they became what we'd call champions of the faith. The Lord did a lot of work in my life, That's why I try so hard in my messages to give a cautionary tale to young people about not getting involved in Satanism or the occult or, those kind of things, because I feel that they too could maybe take a bad path.
Does it give you satisfaction to reach young people?
Yeah, sure. I get letters all the time. I have a calling to just write to encourage people from all walks of life. It's something I do on my own, on my spare time, and I get a lot of satisfaction from it. But most of all, I believe that that's what God has called me to do.
Berkowitz is a born-again Christian. He's a minister in prison. He takes a lot of pride in helping people. That's his thing. What do you think of that?
I think that's a lot better road to go down than serial killer.
You're in jail. What else you got to look forward to? You might as well, I found God. Why not? But I really think he did. That doesn't mean he's exonerated.
If he's trying to do better with other prisoners, so be it. That's God's way of probably making him understand how wrong and bad of a person he was. And now God's giving him a second chance to do right by other people. But it still doesn't change the fact of how I feel.
I'll never forgive him.
Why not?
Why not? Because he snuffed out 6 people's lives, ruined another 7, plus all the families involved, for people that didn't do anything to him. Didn't bump into him, didn't say nothing to him. So I just can't forget him.
Yeah.
But when you look at the front picture right there, those are 2 yous.
Right.
2 pictures of you.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you see?
I see the old man, and I see the new man in Christ. Yeah, I see the one man that was tormented by demons, and I see the man that has the peace of God radiating from him. Yeah, that's where I'm at now. That's the way I was always supposed to be. A man of hope, you know? Yeah.
What is a life worth? I don't know. Mr. and Mrs. Lauria might feel totally different. You know, they lost their daughter 40 years ago.
Does parole, is that attractive to you at this point?
As a realistic hope, I don't see any hope for parole, no.
Personally, I feel there has to be justice for the death of those people. And that's the justice, life in prison.
48 hours to miss it would be a crime.
Were you at all prepared for what happened in this case?